just going to get the neck pocket in the LPJ, and I've got the neck progressed to a point that I can do that. And so there are lots of different ways of doing this. Most of the time I have a full template that has, has the neck pocket in it. And I, like my stock guitar, my Rode, some other Strat stuff that I've been doing, a Telecaster, I just have templates that have the pockets in them. And the necks and the body templates are good enough that you can just work off of each and have a good outcome. But this is a custom, one-off kind of thing. So I'll be just working on the pocket taped right down to the guitar. And I'm just going to turn this around and show you what I'm talking about, and then do some setup or show you how I did the setup. But I'm going to have to reset this, I think. I'll tell you why. So here we go. Oh, I've been cleaning the shop up. It's probably couldn't tell that at first if I were to give you a panoramic view, but it was in such a chaos that, it looks way better now. So the idea here is that I've got the neck, I've got the body just laying on a pad here on the slanted grab. And I'm not even going to say it correctly. And I'm going to put a peg head veneer on that, and then the peg head will be the correct thickness for tuners. So I put a piece of tape here. I took my calipers and measured the width, and then I divided that by 2, set the calipers, and I doubt if you can see it, but there's actually 2 lines here. So when I hold my string to find center, I'm just holding it right between the 2 lines. And then I am at the 16th fret here. And I marked it straight down from the top of the neck, so the 16th fret meets the body. And then I have a center line on the body and on the bottom of the neck. And then I also drew a line at the length there. So the idea now is to pull a string and try to set this up where you can see what's going on. I'd really like to get a laser for this particular type of thing. I'm setting the camera angle, hopefully that you'll be able to see what I'm doing. You probably won't be able to eyeball center, but I can do that from the top down here. And I'm in that position, but let me just show you that mark I mentioned up here. So I'm just putting the string right there. And then I'm going to, my string bunched up so it's not as long as it was. I am just coming up to the square here that is sitting on center line, square to the center line, just touching the edge of the square. You can see that, yep. And that string is going right down the middle of my inlays, all the way down the neck. Now I've seen people use line laser levels, and I think that's a great idea. I don't happen to have one, but this is next best. So it's right on right there. Now, the problem I have is making sure it stays there while I put my routing templates down and against the body, on top of the body rather. And so the other thing is, one way to make sure that your neck pocket is a little smaller, and I don't know why. I mean, I know why, but I don't understand why they keep making router cutters and bearings with enough discrepancy that when you flush trim something with a bearing, it doesn't come out the same size as your template. It generally comes out bigger. So a lot of people run tape down the inside of their template to offset that difference in the discrepancy between the bearing and the cutter. What I'm going to do is I'm going to slide the neck down a couple frets because this tapers, and I'll slide the neck down. I'd say, it's hard to even make a guess, but my neck is in a rough enough state that I could slide down 1.5 inches and then just sand the neck down to fit perfectly into the pocket. So it would slide it down so that the template is closer together than where the neck will actually be sitting. And then I'll put an end block right where the line is, and then I can route the pocket. And then setting the neck will just be a matter of going far enough back in the pocket, sliding it forward until it drops into the pocket. Now if it's a little snug, which is not going to be a huge difference, I will just take on my sanding block here, which I have right here, I have sandpaper, and I'll just sand the side of the neck until it's perfect and drops right in. I'm not one of those people that thinks you have to have a hammer fit neck joint if it's a set neck. I don't even think that's, I mean, it's never appropriate even with a bolt on. I've had a just ton of Strats and Telecasters come through the shop for setups, and they sound great. They're great guitars. They do not have rock solid neck pockets. They have a lot of room in there to move, especially the early ones. Ever since they've been doing CNC, they've been tighter, but the early ones were not tight. Of course, with a set neck, you want a good close fit, but you don't want to have to like wail on the thing because you'll get a hydraulic back pressure from the glue that won't even allow you to set the neck. And it also risks cracking the body if you're too tight. So I'm not advocating sloppy work, but I am advocating I can't speak today. I am advocating glue clearance, and it's necessary to do that to the point that, and this isn't necessarily a good thing to base your one-of-a-kind guitar building off of, but all the companies, all the major players leave little, holes in the neck joint when they're covered by the fretboard in order for the glue to actually press through. Like a dowel pin has a relief, cuts in the side of a dowel or circular thing that allows the glue to pump out as you close the joint. Anyway, so what I'm going to do though is I'm going to put this thing up on blocks, and so I can get a clamp under here. Then I can clamp the neck into position and put the router template boards down without disturbing the neck position. So I'm going to turn you off. I'm going to set that up. And if I'd have been thinking straight before I started any of this, that's what I would have done right from the beginning. All right, so instead of guessing about how much space there is when you shift the taper up a little bit, I'm actually just going to temporarily clamp these boards on. I got a couple, 1.5 inch little dealies under here to kind of keep it lined up. Keep it up off the bench so I could get my clamp under there and on the neck. And I'm just barely clamped there, but that should be good enough. And let's see, yeah, that'll work. All right, so I've got these little boards in there temporarily. So here's where well, I'm not going to mark that. I can see it on the body. So here's where the neck, if I were to route it right where the neck sits, in fact, that's not even completely snug, so they didn't pull up just right. But I think this is good enough for an experiment. So as I push this thing back, you get a gap that opens up. I also ran this through the router, or not through the joiner. I'm going to reclamp these. These aren't really feeling terribly well placed. That's better. All right. So if I push it back up the taper, and you can't really see that, I'm going to go get a feeler gauge. I think I'm going to shoot for about 10 thousandths. And I am going to mark this one just so that I can measure it when the neck is in position. And I'm pushing it all the way to one side, and then I'll measure the gap. So that's right there is 16. I mean, I'm not there yet. Let's try 20 and see what we get. 20 thousandths puts me at about 3/4 of an inch, a little over 3/4. I'm going to say 13. It's got all these little teeny numbers on it. About 13/16 gives me 20 thousandths difference. So I think I'm going to leave the neck where it is for right now. And then I'm going to readjust everything to fit the neck. I'm going to recenter it, make sure everything's square. I'm actually going to put two-way tape on. There's a little bit of an angle on the bottom of the neck that I need to get rid of so that I know I'm setting up flat. So I'm going to take care of that off camera. Two-way tape this. I think I told you that I ran these through the joiner to make sure they were nice and straight. It was one piece actually, and then I just cut it in half. So it's just under 12 inches. 11 7/8 for those inquiry minds. This is what we did before the super glue and masking tape trick came along. It's actually really good tape. It doesn't leave a residue or anything. So Taylor Tool Works is where I source this stuff. So actually I used to use carpet tape. Carpet tape does leave a residue. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to lay this down here lightly. I'm going to put a clamp across here just to pull it in snug, and then clamp these down. Between the clamps and the tape, we shouldn't have any issues. And I'm going to put the handle back that way so I don't gouge myself on the end of the clamp. And it shouldn't need a ton of pressure, just enough that I know it's right up against the neck there. All right, so now everything is locked in really well. Coming back around here, put some clamps on it. Make sure I don't get them in my way for when I'm routing. All right. I know this will be in the way. Just want to pull that tape down tight right there, get a good stick on it. Okay, that's right where I need it to be. And I don't have any side to side movement there. I'm going to go ahead and put my square back here and double check my center line to make sure that I retained that. Like I said, if I didn't retain the center line, then I'll just take it all apart and start over. And miraculously enough, I'm pretty much right on there. And my line is still on the center. Bottom center of the neck is still center of the guitar. Just double checking both ends here to make sure I'm good. Yep, I'm happy. So now I can go ahead and route this. And once I get these clamps out of my way, pushing the neck back. I'll cut myself a little block that goes right here, right where the end of the neck is going to end up at. Get that out of the way, that might help. So there's a line here, so I'll just tape a block right in here, a 1/2 inch thick. Anyway, that's what I'm going to do. And meanwhile, I'm going to add a clamp out here so that this thing doesn't go anywhere. because I have to get away from where the router is going to be running. And same thing here, we'll add a clamp over here instead of close to the neck pocket. I need a longer clamp, so I'll find a longer clamp. Bring you back in when I'm ready to do the routing. Okay, so I have everything set up. I changed the clamps. I'm putting my dust mask on and my earplugs in. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to run, I didn't, because I changed the clamps and all that set up, and I didn't take it to the drill press to relieve any of the pocket. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to run around the perimeter and, you know, get down a ways. I'm going for 1 inch deep overall, and or maybe just shy of that. But when I get to a certain point, I will just take a chisel and bang that piece out of there. It'll just pop out, and then I'll just finish up the whole bottom cavity. So now we go. So it's going to be loud because I got a vacuum set up here and the router, of course. So I'll turn the volume off in the video. I don't know if you noticed or not. I thought I was hedging my bet. I was going to mention that. But, so I put some masking tape on the template itself. I should have just used the hard binding tape from Stu Mac, because this stuff just peeled up. But it was because I didn't had the cutter riding up on the template a little bit, so I just chewed it up. Anyway, we'll get that out of the way now. Well, anyway, so we lost that extra 10/1000ths of an inch of grace. Hopefully I don't need it. All right, here we go again. Plug your ears. So I've just made a trail across, you know, and around here, so I'm going to go ahead and chisel that out. Okay. All right, looks good. We're still well away from our line. Back to the vacuum. All right, just going to tip the body up out of the camera view and just double check that I drew the 1 inch mark correctly so that I don't end up doing something stupid, which has happened. Yeah, we're good. So we can continue in our the direction we're going without getting anything screwed up. I'm going to take the neck here just briefly and see if how it lines up in all this still. Of course, I still have the template in the way, so it's hard to say. You know, it's pretty snug. That 3/4 of an inch back, so this may have worked out just perfectly, even without the tape. I want to leave my template on here for the entire thing because I could take the template off and not have to change my bit. You see I have a pretty short bit in there, but then I have very little to ride on because on this LPJ you just have like a little 1/4 inch piece coming up the side of the neck here, and that would be very tippy. So I like having the larger platform, so I'm going to leave that as long as I can. And then I'll probably just change to a longer bit. And as it is, it's no longer writing on the template. It's going to be writing on the wall of the route itself, but it's solid enough to do that. Yeah, packing. Got to change that to the other router bit. Let's see if anybody cares. You can see that the bearing to cutter ratio, well, router's in my way, is quite a bit different. So yeah, this one will get me to the bottom of the pocket I intend to cut, and do a nice job. All right, so we're just left the line. I don't know if you'll be able to see that, but that was my 1-inch line. Just left the line, and I was just going to sand this. It's got a little bit of a, you can feel the edge of the router in it, but that'll sand out easily. I'm going to clear everything off here and vacuum all this dust up. My vacuum cleaner must be close to being full because it's really not giving me a lot of suction. All right, we're going to go ahead and pull the clamps off and see how we did. I checked the plan just to make sure. I was pretty sure, but I want to stay as true as possible to the actual 69 shape here, or 56, whatever it was. Anyway, as true as you can stay to the original guitar with a laminated neck and a spoke wheel adjustment, on the truss rod. And so I'm going to leave the corners square on the neck, could radius them and then put them in that way, but we'll square the body out. Told you there's no residue. Absolutely none. This is a thin wall here, so let's just start over on this end. There we go. Had a little bit stuck down to that, but not a great deal. All right. I don't want to pry against the top of the guitar with, something like that. So that's why I'm kind of fighting it. I won't be able to tell completely because I don't have the corners squared out yet, but it'll give me an idea. Give me a good idea. I'm kind of tight right there, so I have a bit of sanding to do on my neck. Actually, I have the line right here where I set up at, which is only about a 1/16 from where I'm marking right now, so that I can see about how far I am from my original route. So I actually did come out a little snug, which is preferable to being loose. Yeah, I got 3/4 of an inch that I'm back here. So I'll get these corners cut out, and then I'll start sanding the side of my neck on the 80 grit and 120 and so on that I have on the slab here. And that shouldn't really take long to get into that. Now, one thing I do want to mention, if you haven't done this sort of thing, or only done a little bit of it, once you get the fit where you want it, the more you take the neck in and out of the pocket, the looser the pocket becomes. So if you get a fit that is what I'm going to say glue joint fit, which means it goes in there without burping, you don't have to push on it so hard that you're going to crack something. If you had a couple thousandths of actual clearance, you'd be fine. But once you get to that point, you don't want to keep taking the neck in and out before you do the glue up, because it's going to actually compress the fibers. I guess the way you could combat that is to take a wet rag in the pocket and actually let the fibers swell back up again before you glue it. Anyway, so that's where we are with the Les Paul Jr. build. I don't know if I mentioned it, but I did fret it, and I actually did a complete fret ground level and then polish, but then I went back and went up the sides because I had it taped off and I couldn't do it with tape on it. So now the sides are all sanded in and pretty, but in the process I kind of skinned up a little bit of the top. So I'll have to just go back over that and rebuff them. I'll do that after the guitar is put together, and it'll be one of the last things I do before I string it up. Okay, I think that's everything. Well, all right, folks, so we're to the end of this video, and just want to thank you for watching the video, and if you hung out till the end, you get extra credit for that. I appreciate you a lot. And that's it. That's I may have mentioned it in previous Les Paul videos, but I'm not sure that I did in this video earlier. This isn't like a complete how-to build, just like my acoustic builds that I'm posting right now aren't complete how-to builds. I'm just kind of hitting spots that I think might be of interest because I've already done, I can't even tell you after 12 years or more on YouTube how many videos I've already posted that, of me doing a complete build with, 60 episodes or whatever, maybe not quite that many. But yeah, so anyway, I do appreciate you hanging out and watching the videos. And I hope you get something out of it, even if it isn't a complete how-to. Take care, folks. Go make some dust. Okay, so I just wanted to get this little bit of an update on here. So you can see the pocket the corners have been squared out. And the pocket's been sanded all the way around. So everything looks pretty good. I've got the neck sanded down, started with 80, went to 120, then to 220, and then the final was 320. And it goes in here fairly snug. Yeah, mind you, I didn't want it to be too snug because this is a very fragile area right here, okay? And it would be really easy for this just to crack right in here, which once it's glued in, because it's going to be reinforced by the glue joint, it won't be a fragile thing there. If it took a good hard knock, it might split right there. But that's just the design. And I left this piece because the first Les Paul Jr. I did with the skull fabric on top, I eliminated that. In fact, I went all the way across the bottom here with of an angle through here so that you didn't have this in your way playing. I just wanted this one to be closer to the original design. And there's over 3 inches of glue surface here, so I wasn't worried about running a tenon out here and then having to put a pick guard to cover it. Now I may still use a pick guard just so it looks more authentic because I'm only running the one pickup in this, but this is 3 1/4 inches depth on the pocket, and then you have all this glue surface. So this is absolutely more than satisfactory for a good glue joint. When you have a double cutaway, basically you have it coming off right here and out here as well, making that double cut, and then you end up with very little glue surface, so you do need to run the pocket in farther. And if you have a single pickup, then you definitely have to do something with a pick guard to cover that transition up. Anyway, so just thought I'd mention that. Anyway, it's basically final sanded, but before I glue it, I will take some more off of this. This is, flip it around where I can use my right hand. This is too tight for glue, in my opinion. It really, I have a hard time getting this out of here, so I basically lever it because I don't want to accidentally twist it. So I lever it with various thickness things. I just use the steel rule. Now I'll use the the chisel and just get it under there. Anyway, you know what? Before I pull it completely out, let me just show you this. Anyway, I will sand this off some more before I try to glue it up, because it's just too tight for a glue joint. So one thing I wanted to show you, mention, is that I have kind of a shy eighth between the fretboard and the top edge of the guitar here. And so I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this. This is the original design as well. They do a little bit of a notch at the heel. And so this will notch out about 1/8 of an inch. And as it sits right now, I've got to go down. I'd like the fretboard to meet with the top of the guitar, right where at the 16th fret, right where it joins. And then we're going to be wanting somewhere around 5/8 at the bridge location. And I'm at 1/2 inch. So basically I could just go straight down and that would make up my 5/8. And that may be all it takes, but if I needed to, I can still, let me pull the neck out. Glad this was just a short follow-up. Okay, so we'll be taking a, you know, like I said, a shy 1/8 out of here. So we'll notch in and do that. Then this little edge here covers the joint between the bottom of the neck and the front of the body, so you don't see anything except for this line. And I could just take it all off of the neck, you know, and have it just join the bottom of the neck pocket. That would look fine too, but this is more the original design, so that's why I'm doing that. At any rate, we've got that situation there. And then if you need any more actual neck angle, you would take this deeper to a shallower cut here, and that will actually tip the neck up and give you more neck angle. So, but we'll get it to that point before we decide what to do. I'll make that cut, get it all nice and tight in there. So just a quick follow-up, or maybe not so quick follow-up on the tail end of this video, just so you know that the method I used works. I actually had to sand quite a bit to get to this point. So it maybe didn't need a full 3/4. Maybe if we drop back to 1/2 inch or even 3/8, there would have been less sanding involved. But I think better safe than sorry in this case. That's it, really, this time. So adios.